So, folks, we have to talk about the fact that I have been speculating a lot about whether or not AOC is going to run. I've been talking about it. We just covered a very lengthy public appearance she did with David Axelrod, who is important to remember, was one of Obama's advisors, right? And during that appearance, she was asked point blank, like, are you planning on running for president? And she did not say no and gave a very uncharacteristic answer, which is that she has ambitions greater than any office. And honestly, it is a pitch perfect answer if essentially you're not going to deny running for president, but you are planning to run for president. But that's about all we were really left with, right? And you know, the evidence for me has gone one way or the other, and I saw a public appearance that she made over the weekend that didn't get as much attention earlier today, and I think it's actually really important that you guys also see this. It's relatively short. It's about 5 minutes long, and it is a clip of her speaking at Senator Raphael Warnock's church, which is called, I believe, Ebenezer. And it is a really important church. AOC will mention why, but I want you to keep in mind that she was invited to speak here, because I think that that is really important. And what she has to say and how it is received, pay attention to all of these factors. And what all has to happen in order for all of these things to come together. Okay? So we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to allow you guys to see it without, like, trying to convince you beforehand. Take a watch.
Ebenezer welcomes you. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, born in the Bronx. When I lived in New York, do they still call it the Boogie Down? It was the Boogie Down, Bronx. She graduated from Boston University. She was an intern for Senator Ted Kennedy. You all know who she is. She's a national voice of conscience. Come on up, say hello to the congregation, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Would you welcome my friend? Good to see you, good to see you, good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give her a moment to say hello to the Ebenezer Church.
Of course, thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you all so much. Happy Sunday, happy Mother's Day. I just came today to be in beloved community with you all, and we let the Reverend know, and he so graciously sent a message this morning and said, would you like to address the church? And I said, me? But good morning, everyone, and thank you again, Reverend Warnock, for your leadership, to the pastors, the deacons, the mothers of this church. Especially on Mother's Day, thank you for welcoming me. I don't take lightly where we're standing and sitting here today. And I know how meaningful it is to be invited to be in community together. And I don't take lightly the peril that we are facing just 1 week after the Voting Rights Act was gutted. And in the days since, we have learned why the Voting Rights Act existed. As the maps in Tennessee and Louisiana, across this country, as the Supreme Court, to the Reverend's point in Virginia, overturned the maps 10-1, to literally draw Black Americans out of power. We are living in terrifying times, but we are people of faith. And our faith is the foundation that gives us the courage to fight in the face of overwhelming odds. Like Deborah, who rose as a judge in a time of cruel kings and said, I will go. Like Daniel, who stood firm in the court of a blasphemous king and declared, there is a God in heaven. And like Dr. King, baptized in this church on this hallowed ground, who believed in the audacious idea that maybe this country could maybe live up to the promises we made in our founding documents. I'm here today, brothers and sisters, with a simple message. We stand together, and we are not going back. To New York, what happens to Tennessee happens to California, what happens to Louisiana happens to all of us, Ebenezer. Because this is America. We are not divided by state, we are united by our humanity and common citizenship. Because no man can grant us our humanity. No law can erase it, no king, no system, and no president can strip it away, Ebenezer. Because it is not given by man, it is ordained by God. Thank you, Ebenezer Church, and happy Mother's Day. Praise God.
Now, I want you to take in what just happened here, right? She was invited to speak by an establishment senator, Raphael Warnock, at Martin Luther King Jr.'s parish, that she here is now standing in a sense in a very holy place, especially among African Americans in the South. Like, there is a symbolic importance to this. There is also the rhetorical flourishes in that speech, where she is channeling at different moments Martin Luther King Jr., Obama's cadence, Kamala Harris's, lines, and she is also speaking to a Black church that I want you all to know, especially if you are not, if you are a fellow alabaster disaster out there, right? Like, the African American community in this country has been absolutely incensed over this Voting Rights Act gutting. Everyone of conscience in this country should be, right? And she's speaking to the heart of this highly motivating issue that cuts across every age demographic. And she is there, and her words and her presence elicit multiple standing ovations in the span of 5 minutes. So what I'm trying to when I saw this, right, I see this as a very public play to gain essentially the seal of approval. She is getting a massive seal of approval here from the African American community, from the Southern Black Church. This is like, if you gain the support here, you gain the support essentially everywhere, right? And there is an element of this where she was able to use this moment to tell these people, I am here to help you. I am here to further your cause. I stand in solidarity with you. And there aren't many other politicians being invited right now to Martin Luther King Jr.'s parish to address, the Black community from one of the hearts of one of their most holy places in the country. And I see this as another lock on whether or not she is going to run. I do not think that you get invited to speak at Martin Luther King Jr.'s church, the week after the Voting Rights Act is gutted, unless you are planning to make some incredibly big national moves. She has been soft campaigning with Bernie Sanders for the last year and a half. And that campaign, by the way, has paid off. I want to, right now, draw your attention to a new poll that dropped earlier today, Atlas National Poll. It's brand spanking new. But one of the interesting elements here, and we'll talk more about this later on in today's stream, but there's a lot of really interesting information here. One of the most interesting bits, though, is this. In terms of just all political figures in this country, do you have a positive or negative image of the following politicians? The most positive is Barack Obama. The second most positive is Michelle Obama. The third most positive out of all of them is AOC. Barack Obama isn't running again. Michelle Obama is not running for anything. The next most popular is literally Zoran Mamdani. AOC is more popular than Zoran Mamdani right now. The guy who is known for being a likable, swell guy. Even Donald Trump, with his cult of personality, is at 40%. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because that's as a national figure. That's as a national figure between both Democrats and Republicans. Okay? She is almost 10 points more popular than Donald Trump. And I also just want to throw it out there. If she was going to run for Senate, she would be focusing her activities in New York. She would not be doing these national tours. But she is. And she's been getting the seal of approval from various organizations, whether it is from organized labor or it is from, the Southern Black church now. There is, like she has been getting the torch officially passed to her by Bernie for the last year and a half. And I think she is running. I think that you do not wind up in that church on that day by accident. You do not speak in Raphael Warnock's church, an establishment senator's church, without his blessing and his invitation. And I also think that one of the activities that she's been engaged in for far longer than the past year and a half has been building ties with other with other folks within the Democratic Party. She's been getting mentored by Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, more than anyone, knows exactly how he got rat fucked. And AOC is not making the same mistakes that Bernie did. Warnock is progressive light, not really the establishment. Look, you can split hairs all you want, right? Warnock is not the most Republican guy in the Democratic Party. He's no Chuck Schumer, okay? But let's also not pretend like he's in the squad. He's not like he's decent for what he does. But he is not considered far left. He is not considered like a lock on progressive policies. So Warnock's position, I think, is significant. This church's position and Warnock as its keeper is very significant. And I think that she is going to run. I have no other explanation for how she wound up being there and doing this. And so I think that she might run, because I think she's looking at the current field of candidates who would be the next president of the United States and seeing there is no one else to carry that message to Washington, D.C. Okay? There is no one else. She, in terms of like within the Democratic Party, she's the only candidate that polls above Kamala Harris. And I want to point out, in this overarching poll, which we might be able to use as like a general idea of how candidates might do in a general election, Kamala Harris is sitting at 39. AOC literally has 10 points, is up 10 points on Kamala Harris when it comes to favorability. On top of that, she is 10 points down in terms of unfavorability. She's one of the least disliked politicians in America right now, and one of the most liked at the same time, which is important that those two categories be pointed out. Okay? So, I do think that she's going to run. And I think we all need to be ready for that idea. Now, of course, she's not announcing that she's running. She hasn't done that yet. She's not going to announce until probably early next year, right? But there are two different ways that politicians set themselves up to run, okay? Number one, they go around behind the scenes and they test whether or not they have that behind the scenes support. That is what the majority of candidates in the Democratic Party are doing right now, right? You might see them like testing some messaging on a podcast here and there. But the other way is you test all of that shit publicly. And that is what AOC has been doing over the last year and a half. She's been touring the country, talking to small towns, testing different pro-worker messaging, seeing what works where. She has been learning and studying from Bernie Sanders. They have associated themselves. She is the inheritor of like the progressive movement's torch in this country. And like, I gotta be honest, it is effectively a campaign for the last year and a half without the label. And I think we are going to see that label slapped onto it after the midterms conclude. It's really, really going to be interesting to see what happens here. Jamal Bowie had an excellent short about this today. Let's take a look. Especially if it's a short, he's usually pretty succinct. I like him. He's a good dude. All right.
A couple days ago, last week, sometime in the recent past, I recorded a video that was like speculation about the presidential contest, because even though it's only 2026, the end of the midterms marks the beginning really of the presidential cycle. So I did a video about this. It wasn't good. I didn't like it very much. I was kind of droning on and on more than usual. So I'm not using it. But I'm obviously paying attention, especially on the Democratic side, on the Republican side as well, but on the Democratic side, who is making the moves that suggest that they might be running. Because this is the thing. There is the formal primary that we all see and participate in, and then there's the invisible primary. This is the one that we don't see so much, hence the name. It is the primary of elite maneuvering, of beginning to build connections and ties with key constituencies.
He's so
of
right.
Beginning the process of trying to get endorsements, right? And the invisible primary is where candidates who might be thinking of making a real run, like an official run.
God, sometimes you guys need to stop. Sometimes you guys need to stop recommending that we take a look at someone who is like saying what I said, but way smarter and more eloquently. I love his channel. It's good stuff.
Are testing the waters, seeing how people respond, seeing if key stakeholders would be into their candidacies. It's a fascinating process, and if you know what to look for, you can clearly see it happening in the open. And I'm making this video because it's happening in the open for at least one person, and that person is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who recently gave a little talk, spoke briefly to the congregation at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Reverend Warnock's church. He invited her to speak, and she said a little. Here's a brief snippet from it.
I'm here today, brothers and sisters, with a simple message. We stand together, and we are not going back. Florida happens to New York. What happens to Tennessee happens to California. What happens to Louisiana happens to all of us, Ebenezer. Because this is America. We are not divided by state. We are united by our humanity and common citizenship.
This to me is someone who is at least thinking seriously about running for president. Not just the language he's using, not just a leaning in to God talk, leaning into religiosity, which is, this is a religious country. It's just a necessary part.
Especially when you are going to that location, like leading into like code switching into like a more religious oriented speech makes a whole lot of sense. Like you speak to your audience.
Running for high office, but the fact that she's doing this at a black church in Georgia, knowing full well that key to winning any kind of nomination is going to be at least doing okay with black primary voters. I think she's running. This to me, that's someone who's running for president.
Yep. Like, you do not run for president as a Democrat without the sign off of Southern black religious folks. Like, that is one of the key demographics you have to shore up, and I think she's doing that. She's doing it. She's doing it. Also, like, you can call me Jess, like, if her way of speaking in that video reminded you of Obama, that's genuinely a good thing. Obama is considered one of the best orators that Democrats have ever fielded as a presidential candidate. She's not necessarily as comfortable with that same cadence, but like, she was definitely trying that. She was definitely floating it, and she got a response. She got a very positive response from it, right? Again, Brooklynton, like, I'm seeing a lot of folks in the chat doubting it, right? Like, oh, I don't know if she'd do well. She's literally the most popular active politician in the country right now. She is literally the most popular active politician in the United States right now. Out of any party, she, like, with general voters, she is the most popular one. I'm also seeing some folks arguing that perhaps misogyny would prevent her from being president. I do want to point out, America is not uniquely sexist, is not uniquely, misogynist. It is, like, it is certainly both of those things. However, other countries that have similar levels of sexism, maybe even greater degrees of patriarchal power, have elected women leaders. I think at the end of the day, what wins out here is policy. What wins out here is, hey, are you going to help me be able to put food on my table? Are you going to be able to help me to get my kid to the hospital? Like, that's what is going to win out right now, especially as prices continue to go up under Trump, as the world economy grinds to a halt as a result of Donald Trump's impulsive and pointless decisions. Bernie has been the most popular politician in the US for decades. Did that win him the presidency, Jack? Was he the most popular politician in the beginning of 2016? Like, at the beginning of that race, was Bernie Sanders a national name? No, he was not. He came out of relative obscurity. People who were, like, paying attention to politics might have been aware of him. They might have been aware of his consistency, but he largely came out of nowhere, and the success of his campaign caught even him by surprise.
I'm going to acknowledge that African Americans have been doing liberation since forever ago. Let's learn from them.
No, Jess, when when the 2016 campaign started, no one outside of Vermont knew who the fuck Bernie Sanders was. No one knew who he was. AOC is starting with a built-in advantage where everyone in this country knows who AOC is. Yeah, you are not indicative of where the general electorate is. You're watching shows like this one. Most people aren't you guys. Most people do not pay attention to politics, right? Most people are checked out. They go to work. They drink a beer when they get home. They go to bed. They play with their kids on the weekends. They do shit. You know, like caring about this and paying attention to it, it takes up time. It takes up effort. Most people are not plugged into politics like that. We are exceptions. And so Bernie Sanders was not the most popular politician going into the 2016 campaign. He just was not. He built an incredible campaign, and they turned it into something very influential. But we've been living in systemic, like, bulwarking against Bernie Sanders and his movement for years now. But there is a big difference between Bernie Sanders and AOC, which is that AOC has built up allies within the establishment. AOC has played ball, has created favors that are owed. AOC has way more political capital to burn within the Democratic Party as one of their number one fundraisers. So, like, she's very valuable, and she has made herself indispensable. There's also real talk that AOC is the heir apparent to the Bernie movement. Of course she is. She's been campaigning with him for the last year and a half. The two of them have been going city to city together. Like, that's the whole reason I'm excited here, folks. This is a unique opportunity. Donald Trump's level of unpopularity, his level of fuck-upness, has basically opened a door that is not going to open again after this election cycle. And that is why I think that she is seriously considering running. Okay? Like, she is considering running. And I think she has set herself up to run. And she's going to. All right? Yeah, in 2015, Bernie Sanders started from a position of having 76% of Americans having no idea who the fuck he was. That's according to the polling from the time. That's according to Gallup. Before he announced his run for the presidency, 3/4 of America had no idea who he was or had never heard his name before. Okay? A solid 95% of Americans know who AOC is. She has spent the last year and a half building her bona fides with Bernie Sanders as a champion of the working class. She is doing the work. She's put in the time. She's built the connections. She is getting the groups behind her that she would need if she was running for president. I'm done with the speculating. She is running for president. That is what she is doing. I have no idea who any kind of running mates would be. Of course, it's way too early to speculate on that stuff, but she is going to run. Yeah, exactly, Liz Galahad. My entire point is that she has been running the entire time. It is just now that she is getting, like, the seals of approval from some of the largest constituencies in America, that, you know, the largest constituencies that she has targeted thus far to get their approval from. Because, again, I do want to point out, she's been getting those seals of approval the last year and a half. She's been going to towns in the middle of nowhere to get their working class approval. She's been building it up brick by brick the entire time. And it is only now that she is going after larger and larger constituencies that it becomes blatantly obvious. And I think I think she might be the best shot we got for any kind of progressive socialist president in America. There is no one else, really. There are people who might be able to be pushed into some of her positions, but there's not really any other contender coming out of the field right now that is going to full-throatedly champion progressive policy. you've got a couple. John Ossoff, I think, would play the game very well. I think he would put up a really good fight in the primary. But he would have to be pushed to embrace more progressive positions. We'd have to be worried about who he's going to throw under the bus. With one swipe, Pelosi would knock her on her ass, politically speaking, of course. Yeah, but that's why she's been playing ball for like the last 8 years, right? She's been playing ball specifically with Nancy fucking Pelosi. I think we're going to find out she has a lot more institutional support than we might be expecting. It's why it's interesting to me that Raphael Warnock invited her to speak. It indicates a level of support that she experiences outside of just the most progressive wing of the party. She is building up that consensus. Well, also, Pelosi is old, but she still has a great deal of institutional power, right? And I think part of the reason AOC has been playing ball this entire time is to be able to navigate those relationships. And I think she's been able to do it relatively successfully. This is only the beginning of a long game. Yeah, and it's a game that she's been playing for years. And I think that all things being considered, if this was a relatively normal time, she would run for Senate. But this is not a normal time. We are not in a normal election year. We do not have the luxury of seating her on off to the side on the bench for the next 12 years while she builds up even more institutional power. What we have is a unique window of opportunity to stop fascism in its tracks and right the ship. And very few options are available to us of people who would actually do something about what has happened to this country. Okay? There are very few people who are offering us more than just a base return to status quo with an aesthetic veneer of, justice applied. I believe that AOC is somebody who can offer us more. And it's why I'm feeling a lot of hope after seeing this appearance that she made at Ebenezer Church. It is very, very important, I think, for all of us to start, fixing our hearts and getting ready to jump in. If this lady does run for president, it's going to be an all hands on deck situation. All hands on deck. The other main contender at the moment is Newsom, and he doesn't have the spark to get people excited. He's too much of an empty suit. I mean, just looking at, again, level of popularity among politicians, like Gavin Newsom trails AOC by 15% in terms of favorability, and his unfavorability is about 14 points higher than AOC's. More people like AOC, and I think the more people see her, the more they like her, which is why she's been doing this national tour with Bernie. It builds her name recognition. It associates her with a set of policies. She has done the work. They didn't give a fuck who is popular. No, but voters do. Voters care. Voters inside the Democratic Party care. My God. There is only a limited amount that they can rat fuck. Their ability to rat fuck is not infinite, guys. Jess, because you lost a game in the past, it doesn't mean you're going to lose every single time. Get up, dust yourself off, and you try again. That's the entire history of the labor movement. Stop abandoning the very principles that we have all here accepted. Stop it. This whole, we lost before, we're gonna lose forever, it gets old. This is different. She's put in the work. She's built up her profile. She has learned from what happened in the past, and she's not doing the same mistakes that lost us every time. I think that we are in a situation that is substantially different from 2016 or even 2020. People in 2020 had the illusion that things were going to go back to normal under Joe Biden. They didn't. They didn't. It was just a continuation of the Trump era. Trump never stopped campaigning after his loss. He was an omnipresent individual in our politics. We never got out of the Trump crisis. But I think that someone who has the ability to end it is AOC. And I, for one, am looking forward to volunteering for that campaign. He also never stopped complaining. Well, yeah, he never stops complaining. Anyway, folks, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure this will be relatively simple, straightforward, and not controversial at all among folks who are very, very normal. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Comments longer than 8 words really help in the algorithm. And also consider getting organized, because if we get organized beforehand, it gets a lot easier to organize for different candidates going forward. So join your local Dems, join your local DSA, get your corpo Dems out of power by joining your local Dems, make your party more progressive, make your DSA more effective, and also, you know, have some fun doing it, make some connections, meet people, you know, do that thing that people do, right? And, of course, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is non-tucking lingerie. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description, and let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, being and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.